All right, listen. I know I'm super late. Okay, listen, I know I was supposed to release this in October. Shut the fuck up. Okay, listen, I was dealing with stuff. All right. I'm just, I'm a human being. I got a life. Okay, I'm a YouTuber. Okay, I gotta deal with stuff. All right, better late than never. All right, take this as an late Christmas gift. All right, please. I'm sorry. Okay, Jesus Christ, I'm only human. All right, please just enjoy the video. All right, I'm sorry, guys. Seriously. All right, I'm still working hard on my other videos. All right, please just calm down. All right, but here it is, the long-awaited horror movie vlogs. Enjoy. Hi. Hey. Hello.
And now, our feature presentation.
It's Sunny, and welcome back to Movie Logs. So, if you don't remember, this is my bi-monthly review series, if you will, where I review at least 10 movies every month, and basically, it's usually because there's so many films out there that, it's impossible for me, a mortal individual, if you will, to just review every single one out there. So, the intention of this series is to give the spotlight to a bunch of underground films that otherwise wouldn't get their own video essay, but do deserve some love and attention. So I just give them my basic, simplistic reviews here. And this month, since last month was October, I'm going to be covering some horror films that I watched that I really enjoyed. And yeah, that's pretty much just the entire video. It's just a bunch of horror films because I'm a big horror buff. I love horror media in general. Horror is it's a very fun genre, if it was just fucked up to say, the circumstances that come from a horror story. But yeah, so here's 10 horror films that I watched that I really enjoyed. You can see these as recommendations. So, if you find one that, you think is interesting, feel free to let me know if you watched it and your thoughts. So here we go. A group of college students retreat to a remote forest cabin where unexpected events occur. The Cabin in the Woods is a very fun horror movie, to say the least. The story can be generic, but what makes it very creative is all the elements that are combined, at least, not trying to spoiler it, but, the different elements that are from different genres and how it all combines really makes it original, at least to watch. The characters, though basic archetypes, are still rootable, and you can tell the entire cast had a blast making this movie. But for me, without spoiling, one specific side of the cast, specifically these corporate characters, I wouldn't say they're annoying or anything, but they're just not entirely interesting to me. The score is very good at adding a bunch of tension to a lot of scenes. The cinematography is pretty good. It doesn't look like a generic horror film. It definitely has its own look to it, being very larger than life and stuff, and I really appreciate that. And the overall editing is pretty nice too. It always jumps back at the perfect times between the two plot lines across the film at just the right moments. I really do love the film's overall kind of mayhem, horror, absurd comedy, and sci-fi concepts in a consistent manner, with its very insane style, making the film very compelling for me. The production is actually really great. I saw a video showcasing the behind the scenes, and I really appreciate how they tried to go as practical as they can, and even with the little CGI that's utilized, it is not distracting at all. It actually looks pretty natural, and it's generally a good looking film and a really well made film, and it definitely honors horror as a genre within itself. Yeah, but The Cabin in the Woods, I think it's the perfect gateway horror film. If you want to get a friend or someone into horror and maybe they're interested but they don't know where to start, I think honestly this is a great film because it doesn't make fun of horror. It honors it by taking its tropes and really trying to be creative and fun and an overall very, fun blockbuster watch. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I definitely think it's a great film. Its flaws don't ruin it at all, and I'd probably rate it an 8.5 out of 10. In an Iranian ghost town, Bad City, we witness the doings of a lonesome creature. So, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, I think, is probably one of my personal favorites from this video. Well, I actually have 3, but we'll get to that. But this one, I really appreciate for how going in, I'm expecting a horror movie, but coming out of it, I didn't get that without spoiling, but I kind of loved it. Like, it makes a very typical monster setup of this creature going around killing people and stuff, and takes a very, I would say, emotional look at it. Not in like a Pixar level tearjerker, but a very interesting one. One kind of examining the loneliness of this creature, and the two main characters that are focused upon across the film are really likable and filled with depth, and are just fascinating to watch, and they have really great chemistry. I love the cinematography and the overall style of this film. How it kind of gives a modern day street homage to good old spaghetti western. The black and white color palette and really well composed visuals that are all genuinely great at building mood, tension, and atmosphere. And generally, I think the dialogue is also really well delivered. It's not always like blurting everything out of the story. It's always natural and very human, surprisingly, which is funny because, you know, it's a monster movie and stuff. And yeah, it's really oddly cozy, and it's a very romantic, dramatic, but it's still a horror film by the end of the day. But it's a very creative one, and I also love the production with its California backdrop, which is just marvelous. Again, like I've said millions of times before, I love the California atmosphere, and this film does a perfect job of it, really feeling modern but also old school. It's a very nicely slow burn film, and I really appreciate that because, you know, slow burns can be easy, not easy, but they can be hard to do, and you know, this is one of those ones that's a great example of how to do it by really getting you engrossed in the story. And when it ends, even after going through all that, you don't really want it to end, you know, and I think that's great. A girl walks home alone at night. I think it's a great film. It's honestly one of my favorites. Definitely one of my favorite horror movies now, because it's not exactly a horror film. It just takes a horror setup, but what it does with it is very creative and kind of heartwarming, oddly enough, and I think it's great for that. I probably rate it a 9.5 out of 10. It's generally that amazing. A bride is hunted down on her wedding day for a family tradition. Alright, to get the positives out of the way, the music I think is really good. There's a few licensed songs that add the right punch to the film. The visuals are downright stunning, with the very rich golden palette and very horrific imagery displayed across the duration being very, just creative. The editing is sharp, the dialogue is really funny and perfectly comedically timed. The sort of black comedy, natural horror, and fun mix-up really gives this film a familiar charm that is really enjoyable. The production is great in giving detail to its household setting and really providing the right grounds for the story. It never once gets boring and is always enticing. A very fun and dreadful popcorn horror flick that is very endearing. Where it really falls apart, not to say it's a bad movie or anything, it's definitely not. It's very 50-50, but its flaws are that it has a really great setup. It's a very interesting one, but in execution, it can be very standard, and like again, the story has a very hide and seek sort of feel to it, and I really love that. It's very engaging and fun. But another problem is that most of the film, like, I understand why it is that way, but the character is just running around, and I get that, you know, it's a horror film and that's kind of how the story goes, but it's just kind of like, there's no point to it. You know, you could easily cut all this out and nothing would have been missed. It's engaging, sure, but it's not really a story. It's really just plot, same beat, not much progression until, like, except for the first act and the third act. The characters don't really have much depth. I mean, they are memorable, but that's only because they're defined by one character trait, and I feel like that's not enough. But the characters are likable, they have charisma, and of course the cast the cast is stellar, but really, Samara Weaving, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, is the highlight. Holy shit, I see her all the time. You know, I've seen a lot of TikTok edits of this film, and, you know, finally watching it and seeing her performance, wow, she's gonna be something big one day, I got a feeling. Yeah. Well, overall, yeah, even though I just noted the flaws, it's still not a bad movie. It's still a great film, honestly. It does have enough style, creativity, and charisma. Definitely like Cabin in the Woods, a film that you can recommend to someone who wants to get into horror, because it's funny, it is kind of scary at points, and it is adventurous and fun, and it has the right kind of attitude, you know, it has the kind of vibe you want out of a fun, silly horror film. And yeah, I'd probably rate it at 8.5 out of 10. two lovers' peaceful existence is ruined by a cult, leading into a revenge plot. Yeah, Mandy is peak fiction, I'm gonna be honest with you. This shit is fucking amazing. Oh my god. This probably might be my favorite horror movie. I don't know. I told you guys, there's like 3 horror movies in here that are like, holy fucking shit, they're amazing. It takes a simple, sort of revenge setup, but goes completely psychological with everything, and it's such a eerie, creepy, and batshit insane just movie. Andrea Riseborough and Nicolas Cage give incredible performances. I mean, the entire cast gives incredible performances, but like, holy shit. Especially Nicolas Cage, like, I feel like I'm saying his real name wrong. Nicolas Cage. He is freaking insane in this movie, man. Holy shit. I'll never understand the hate for him. He's just that guy. He's him. I love how the film perfectly hides so much under its surface and really leaves you to analyze kind of everything it really means. And it's one of those films where it has an ending where it's like it doesn't tell you what it is, but you kind of like that. It's a very confusing film, but a good kind of confusing film. The dreadful music is pretty great. The editing flows nicely, and holy shit, the style of this movie is fucking crazy. It's such a hellish, pink-led, lucid, dreamy kind of imagery to it, with very little dialogue, but very symbolic and religious dialogue from the certain characters. And its overall very 80s, satanic, LSD-driven style gives such life to an otherwise very indie-level horror action flick that has so much clear passion and charisma. Even despite its clear low budget, the film is effective in utilizing its limitations to be the most punching and impactful in all of its areas of necessity. It is a must-watch indie horror flick with so much energy and unique stylization to make it very easily not only unforgettable, but a genre classic. Holy shit, this movie's amazing. Please go watch it. 9.5 out of 10. Holy shit, it's fucking fuck. When a girl's mother disappears, leaving her on her own, she joins a gang of street children, leading into a tragic chain of events. Its mix-up of typical stories makes for a unique, symbolic, and still original narrative for its cultural and overall distinct combination of different setups for a cohesive film. Fucking Christ, this is just another amazing movie. Holy shit. The young ensemble is very mature and brewing with such significant portrayals that are truly astonishing in how well layered and flawed the characters can be in the story, The film goes all of the way to portray its kids in such a surreal subject matter that is both impactful and truly original for the adventure, crime, and horror genres. Like, these kids, like, they're really, like, they're not just, how movies always portray kids in such a positive light. And sure, I'm not saying kids are the worst, like, I'm not fucking crazy, but like, sometimes they can be flawed and a little bit fucked up, and this movie does a good job of that. The imagery is perfect and really detailing the Mexico backdrop, and it's very creepy, raw, yet there's a lot of scenes that are beautiful too, to create really such a significant picture. And the editing is also really well timed, knowing when to shift the focus on the characters, their dialogue, and overall details to enhance scenes. I love how the dialogue given to the kids is very surreal and adds weight, and a real respect for not being afraid to highlight the morality, flaws, and sorrow of these characters. I mean, generally, the things these kids go through for this film is just downright, it really is tragic as shit. This film gives me a lot of Pan's Labyrinth vibes, if you remember my review of that film in my first video, where this film, it deals with, Mexican crime and, of course, ghost horror, and it's a very dark and mature film, but it's also got that very mature fairy tale feel to it, and I kind of really love that about it. It's a very long film, but I love how long it is. It feels like a genuine adventure, and it never once loses my attention. Honestly, this might be the one that's my favorite horror movie. This one really spoke to me a lot, and I really appreciate how it's willing to go that there. It's willing to go to get dark and stuff, and I really love that about it. This is honestly an easy 10 out of 10. Simple as that. Go watch it. It's amazing. But be prepared for some crazy ass shit. A beautiful young woman turns into madness with her pressuring trauma. Repulsion presents a very psychological and perfectly dark narrative that is truly mind-bending and a true horror staple. Carol is such a fascinating protagonist and never speaking much, and yet having so much character through performance and narrative purpose alone. How the film spends a good of the first half being standard and desire to explore Carol and then eventually do it with no return from the horrific madness of the story truly makes it impactful for me. The jazz score is very cozy and well composed, and even the more subtle, somber, and bombastic melodies help bring in the right emotions. The camera work is downright astonishing and really focusing in on every little detail in hindsight and elevating the psychological roots of the Carol. The well-written, desirable dialogue from the supporting cast and pondering the nature of the film's events and allowing the visuals and audio to portray the story is genuinely great. It's a very dark and it has a lot of really heavy subject matter, and I really appreciate that because the way the film tackles it is very, real and also very horrific, which is what makes it a real horror movie. The atmosphere here is really well done. It has an apartment setting, and the way, especially towards the third act, how they manage to pull off a lot of things visually and practically is generally incredible. It's some trippy ass shit. It's a horror movie and overall cinematic classic for its experimental attitude back in its era and being willing to go insane with it, with its ideas portrayal. Sorry, I'm just trying to say my thoughts. But yeah, I generally think it's a 10 out of 10. It's a really good movie. Yeah, check it out. It's a banger classic. A refugee couple from South Sweden finally have a new home, only to realize something came along with them. Yeah, so the story of his house is a good one in the third act. Everything else is pretty generic. It's not essentially bad to say, it's still engaging and stuff, but it's just very generic stuff. But it isn't until the third act where it really shows its creative potential. And I think the overall direction, I just wish it was the whole film, but that doesn't make it a bad movie because the other aspects are really good. For example, the characters I think are really well interesting. They have great arcs across the film. The score is pretty good. The cinematography is well done. The way the film cuts is always perfect, of course. The dialogue has a lot of impact with it. The film knows how to say so much with so little. They're keeping the dialogue reserved and never, letting lines spell out the movie for you. And I really appreciate that when movies do that. The film has a great tone and not being shock value or standard, but having some genuine heart and surrealness to its intentions, which makes it really, at least for me, really appreciate the film a lot. Of course, the spooky house setup is really well done this time around. At least that is creative. The production value is really creative. I'm surprised for an indie film. They did a lot with its budget. Sometimes I'm kind of like, is this an indie film or is this a studio film? And overall, the film is really nicely paced. So yeah, it's a very well-made indie horror that isn't afraid to explore social, cultural, and supernatural concepts for a very enjoyable movie, I gotta say, yeah. I'd probably rate it an 8.5 out of 10. Even though the story can be generic, I still think it's worth a watch. It's still a good film. Villagers investigate the mysterious killings that are killing their loved ones. The incredibly haunting and dark ghost story this film presents is rightfully well constructed in its delivery and overall mystery. I was just engaged in it the whole way through and never really I never got lost. I was just all over into it. Yeah. But one flaw I have, it's a very 50-50 flaw, is that, not to say the characters are bad. I understand what the film was going for, and it did work partially, but the main character is a fucking idiot. Holy fucking shit. I feel like I might be the only one thinking this, but this guy is a fucking moron. Holy shit. God damn, I couldn't. My God, bro, he's a fucking idiot. But ignoring that, and sometimes the performances can be a little funny at times unintentionally, but outside of that, I think the direction is really good. They had a really thought out narrative and it unfolded perfectly right, and the third act was just fucking nuts. The music is also really well portrayed and leaving the right mark for tons of sequences. The well handled framing and haunting imagery really lands unforgettably to really hinge on the horror of the film personally. The film naturally cuts at the right times and helps plant many little details across the film to unveil the mystery. The dialogue is pretty solid in both being naturally reactionary and convey the film's truth without spelling it out. The tone felt unset at first, but over time the film gradually matures into a high-stakes, grounded horror drama that is stellar in its folk stylization. The overall production is massive in doing so much with so little, not requiring big effects to convey its supernatural elements. And the film is very long, but again, the narrative was so well thought out and so interesting and engaging that never once it got boring. It's a great foreign horror picture for containing a gripping horror drama and being heavily bold in its direction, tone, and overall execution. I think, despite the main character being a fucking dumbass, the film it's still amazing. I still think it's a great film. Easy 9.5 out of 10. During the Iran-Iraq conflict, a woman caring for her daughter while her husband is at war is gradually convinced evil spirits are at work. So, to get the pros out of the way, the film does have really great social ideas and overall analysis of anxiety and stress in a very horror-based film, which makes it creative. The music has a good enough presence, it's serviceable enough. The camera work is really well done, specifically for the horror, sequences, really motioning with the characters and intensifying the situation. The dialogue is solid enough. It's kind of basic, but it works to add to the film's context. Surprisingly, for its low budget, it's really good for what it can manage to pull off with its scenes by sheer creativity, and the film is just short enough. It begins and ends just where it needs to. It doesn't go on forever. But this is probably the most flawed film out of the video because it definitely has its flaws. It's not a bad movie, but it has its flaws. First off, the story, it's pretty generic. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's just the typical. Which reminds me, this is like the fucking fifth fucking ghost story. Holy fucking shit, goddamn, fucking Christ! I gotta watch more kinds of movies. Yeah, I gotta just fucking anywho. The typical. It's got the typical ghost haunting tale. Watching these movies back to back. Holy shit, this one's probably the most generic. It doesn't really do anything super original. It has great ideas, but it doesn't really fully explore them. I understand. This is why I'm 50-50 on this aspect. The characters can come off as brash and ignorant, but it's clear it works into the narrative as flaws, and the cast is really solid. No matter what, the cast is really good. And I understand the characters have their flaws and it works against them, but sometimes they're just, they're fucking ignorant as shit. They're just fucking ignorant. The editing, I wouldn't say it's horrendous, but a lot of scenes could have been cut, and it always transitions back and forth to repeat the same story beats. So many scenes happen and don't progress shit. Literally, they don't progress anything. It's literally just, they're literally the same scene. It does contain a good tone, it's always genuinely scary, but it doesn't really have much style, especially for an Iran film. Yeah, it could have had some style, but it really didn't, which kind of sucks. But it may have its flaws, but Under the Shadow is still a solid enough foreign horror that may be a little standard, but one of the more accessible films out there. It's still entertaining enough. It's maybe generic, but it's the good kind of generic where if you want something generic and you don't want it to be bad, this is a good version of it. 7 out of 10. It's just pretty solid. A banker wrongs the wrong lady and in return gets cursed. So honestly, this one was probably the one film on the list that I was most excited to check out because it's directed by the fucking GOAT Sam Raimi, bitch. Yeah, I'm a pretty big Sam Raimi head. I love the Evil Dead films, I love the Spider-Man films, and I've heard of this film, I know of this film, but I never got around to watching it until, this video. And it's pretty fucking peak. So the story I think is great. It's a great showcase of Sam Raimi. This is probably the most basic Sam Raimi film, but I say that in the best way. This is probably the film to get you to become a Sam Raimi fan. It takes the familiar and energizes it to the maximum for a campy, fun horror time. The characters are really likable and rootable with a solid cast and really fun personalities, and the only genuine flaw, it's not even a flaw, it's just I'm 50-50 on it. The direction is good. What the film tries to do is good, and I get it. But it's like, see, the thing is, the way the story treats the main character, or, I mean, maybe it's just Sam Raimi being cruel, like he always is. But like, you know, basically all the spooky shit that happens, the main character did not deserve this shit. She did not deserve this. She did nothing wrong. I mean, maybe she did something a little bad, but not bad enough to be haunted by these fucking demons and shit and fucking motherfucking, you know, like, god damn, she didn't deserve it. She did not deserve it. She's probably one of the most, like, saddest horror protagonists ever, because she did not deserve any of this. I swear to God, bro. I kept watching the whole film telling myself, bro, Sam, you crazy ass bastard, she did not deserve this. God damn. But anywho, you know, her boyfriend was so sad. Okay, anywho, watch the movie for yourself. You understand. Feel free to at me on Twitter or whatever, bro. It's such a great film. But yeah, the very high, intense, violent music is always a pleasure, and really bringing in such charisma to the horror. Of course, Sam Raimi's classic style, you know, the classic camera movement, framing, imagery, and overall mood, with a very wacky and insanity approach to the visuals is, of course, always beautiful. The editing is very spot on for aggressively, yet never abruptly unfolding set pieces. The dialogue is campy fun with some fun lines, easy exposition, and overall warming and fun banter. Of course, Raimi's style is great, adding some supernatural religiousness to his classic style. And the production is always top notch and pulling off fun sets, practical and special effects to really sell every beat. And the film is just nicely short enough. Even at its most basic roots, it's still one of the very best within Raimi's campy fun horror appeal to deliver a true motion picture ride. An easy 9.5 out of 10. It's an amazing film. And yeah, I'm glad this is the final film I watched of this video. So those were 10 horror films that I watched that I just felt like recommending to y'all. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Let me know what film interests you. Maybe let me know at Twitter or where the fuck you're at. You know, which one you watched, or maybe just whatever horror movie you watched. You know, horror is just my favorite genre. It's just so much. Again, it's fucked up to say, but it's just so much fun, man. I don't know what it is. It's just, we humans are fucked up. We get a kick out of this shit. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I enjoyed all these films, you know, respectively. I hope you enjoyed my reviews. You know, I'm trying to improve this series as best as I can. I did this one unscripted, just going off my notes and stuff. Probably if you watched one of these, let me know which one you did and your thoughts, or maybe you watched all of these, I don't know. Because for me, probably my personal favorites, man, there were so many good ones. There was Tigers Are Not Afraid, there was Mandy, there was A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Those ones, and Repulsion, those ones were probably my favorites. I can't really choose, but if I had to choose one, Mandy's got more my vibe, but Tigers Not Afraid is probably like the most emotional for me. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. You know, keep rocking on. It's been sunny. So long. Farewell. And goodbye.